Hi, Monique. I'm so glad you're here.
Great to be here.
Yay.
Here.
Here, where you are, internet.
We're safely 6 countries apart. It's fine.
Thank goodness for the internet. What would we freaking do?
I don't know what we did before the internet. I really don't. I
Oh,
don't know. It's a mystery.
when I heard about what you wanted to talk about, I was like, that is so timely because this is just a really rough time of year. Like, it's so dark, it's so depressing. Our bodies just kind of fight the lack of vitamin D, and we're just we're just like, well, I have a friend who wants to sleep all the time because it just feels so weird. So when I heard that you wanted to talk about burnout, I was like, that's important.
So, what I was thinking with burnout and creativity and overwhelm was that we kind of have, I go on fire, right? So I'm like, yes, I have this idea. I just go for it. And then I get myself into it. And sometimes it's a longer term or it takes more energy. And then I start to feel like the dip. And that's when I realize starting to go into burnout. But it took me a really long time to see the warning signs
Mm,
of that. Excuse me. And so that's what I just probably even this year, the last couple of years, has started to really pay attention to what the warning signs of overwhelm and burnout were, which has taken me a lifetime to get to that skill. Because normally you're just like, by the time you realize it, you're crashed.
So what are your warning signs?
For me, my warning signs are kind of anxiety. So I start thinking, oh my gosh, I have this to do and this to do and this to do and this to do. And then if it gets even worse, I get kind of a foggy brain.
Mm,
And I start, not only do I have this anxiety, I need to do all this, but now I can't think clearly about it. And so then I'm in this whole spot like, oh my gosh, I have to, and I can't. And, and so that's where I find myself sometimes. Um, and in times where there's everything going on, like if I have a lot of stuff in my personal life and a lot of stuff in my business and a lot of stuff in my family and the world, and that of course compounds it. You only have so much capacity. Um, but I'm trying to see the warning signs on each of those things now. So if I'm feeling like I have to know all this stuff that's happening in the world, sometimes like I am not a world leader, I can turn off the news. I don't need to watch the news every day. Okay, great. Done. Set that aside. So for me, a lot of it is what can I get rid of? What can I eliminate? And so what'll happen is I can't sleep. So I wake up at 4 and I can't go back to sleep until 9. And some of that's excitement over projects and some of it's just I've got to get these things off my mind. And so it's kind of the age old thing like, okay, if I write it down, then I actually usually see the scope of what needs to be done and realize, oh, my mind blew that out of proportion.
yes.
I
It's
have
like
this one
having
thing.
having this to-do list, and when you really been focused as much as you could, and you see like, I only crossed 3 things off of this. It wasn't that I failed, it's that I really thought I could do 2 days worth of stuff in 3 hours.
Yes. And that's huge. I have my whiteboard over here. And what I have is like all kinds of projects and things I want to work on one side. Then the other side has stuff this week. And the top of that list is stuff today.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I put those, okay, yeah, there's things to do this week, but I don't have to do all of them today. I can do these 2 things today. And oh my gosh, I just feel so much better. When I come in here, I grab my dry erase marker and I can scribble off, or erase what I did yesterday. Like I actually did that. I'm done with that. Don't worry about it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And just do these 2 or 3 things. And even at that, like you were saying, it does not have to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I,
Finished is better than perfect, or whatever that, however that goes. Done is
right.
better than perfect.
And I think what happens for a lot of us is that perfection is masking our anxiety in a lot of ways, like,
Mhm.
and stopping us from doing things.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of that's like American culture or just the expectations of myself,
Mhm.
wanting it to be not perfect. I really don't think of myself as a perfectionist, but I feel like I have this commitment to each project and I don't want to let people down. I don't want to give them
Mm.
misinformation. Um, and on YouTube specifically, I realize if I put out a video or two a week, that's a whole lot of content. I definitely don't want to put that all in one video. And once I made that mind shift, because I think when you start YouTube and you have all these ideas, you want to do like all 10 of these big ideas in the first month. And you don't realize each of those ideas is probably 10 more concepts. So every time I do a lighting video, I think, oh my gosh, I forgot this, I forgot that, and this could have been better. Oh, well, I'll just make another video.
Oh, we're recording this on the 10th of December, or 11th. Today is 2 years ago today. I uploaded my very first vlog.
Congrats.
Thank you. And I have uploaded 351 videos, possibly,
Wow.
because I think I went back and deleted a few that were just I'm kind of annoyed that I did that, because now I'm really interested to go back and see what that video was. Um, so yes, I really did push myself to do all the things. I really uploaded so much. I don't regret it, but it's rewind. Um, Something that you said made me think about, do you remember back when COPPA was a huge deal? I think
Yeah, that was like a year or two ago. That
no,
was not very long ago.
no,
No?
this was shortly before COVID became pretty big.
Okay, so a year ago.
Yeah, because I remember talking with my friend Carol, she's that expat mom, and this was so huge and heavy on our minds. Like, if the content is appealing to children, we could lose everything we're working for, and like, this isn't fair. This is the worst thing that could possibly happen. And then COVID happened. We're like, whoa, we were really melodramatic, weren't we?
Right?
But I realized, like, I had this big emotional video, like I cried and talking about what this meant to me and how much my channel meant to me. And it was like I was able to kind of reset, like, wow, what if I lost everything?
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, well, this is really dumb that I'm spending money on TubeBuddy. Like, okay, it gives me like 5 tag ideas. Whoop, big whoop. I'm gonna go ahead and finally remember to cancel that now and save my money.
Yeah.
like I like realized, okay, if I have to choose between, not really, I don't want to have my kids in the thumbnails because I don't want those videos to have the comments turned off. It like really helped me to kind of find my focus a bit more and just realize I really don't want to appeal too much to children. I want to
Mm.
appeal to adults. and,
Oh, interesting.
and like I find myself now going through big transitions in life and heart and mind and soul, and I had a point to this, but I can't find it. Like, oh yes. I find myself like realizing my anxiety. That's what we're going back to, the anxiety thing. My
Yeah.
anxiety causes me to latch onto YouTube. Like, this is YouTube. This is my world. This is the only thing I have control over. And like worrying about things, going back to worrying about how many views a video is getting, and just like I like pour my anxiety into YouTube, and then when I realize I'm freaking out about something, like, okay, this isn't about YouTube. This is about my anxiety just needing something to latch onto.
Ooh, that's huge, Katie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if we can just step outside of ourselves for that just brief view,
Yeah.
right? And I think sometimes there's a few times on YouTube where just things are down, right? Or maybe you don't have internet or you're on vacation, and that's sometimes that's kind of forced on you. But when you can figure that out yourself, oh, there's this phrase I used to use, will it matter at Christmas? Now we're at Christmas now, but all the things that you would just forgive or let go of during a big holiday or event, well, can you do that all the time?
Oh.
Right? So if I'm planning like a big, a wedding or a Christmas event or something, that's going to take a portion of my time. I only have this much time.
Mm-hmm.
So what do I give up during Christmas time? I can't get everything done then. Or what things can I forgive? Or what things really mean a lot at Christmas? Or someone's birthday or whatever it is, where those times where you go, I can let go of that. We could do that all year. And so I think about that a lot too.
And like, what can I let go of when I realize this is stressing me too much? I am latching onto this thing and it's not good.
Do you ever find too that it's not maybe that whole thing, it's just a portion of that thing? So my example is my podcast. So I have this podcast I've been dabbling with for a couple of years, and it's just kind of a side thing that I do because I like it. And it's gone through a lot of iterations. And one of them was being on a radio show. And so I did that for like a year, and I interviewed people. And this year, I just got to a point where I was dreading it. I did not want to do it. I love the radio station. I love all the interviews I was doing. I loved a lot of that. But when it came down to now I have to cut this into exactly 28.5 seconds, and we have to make sure that follows all these rules. And I had to have it every 2 weeks. And I realized I didn't want to do it. And so I gave it up. So I just stopped doing it. But I did not give up on my podcast. They let me take that to my podcast. And so instead of having that on there, I just do a little chat on my podcast now with myself. And so to me, it wasn't so much I didn't like creating that content. I just didn't like creating it this way, or the editing part of it.
Yes, dude. That's exactly how I felt. The videos that I made that were super edited with lots of scripting, trying to plan perfect B-roll to go behind it. I'm really happy with the final product, but I started to dread it. I would spend 1 week on one video, and that sounds like, wow, a whole video. That's great. That's so much, but it was so little for me. That's the double-edged sword of being in No Small Creators and seeing really quality stuff as you start to compare yourself and think, oh, I'm not as good as them. And who would want to watch my boring old vlog where I'm just walking around with my kids, or, but it turns out some people do.
Right.
And that's enough. And I just want to be myself. I don't want to be a super mega amazing artist all the time.
True. And I think, we talked about a little bit about, our audience on our last video. And I said, I create a lot for my audience. I always keep my audience in mind, but I really do like I add my personality in there, and I add things that I want to go back and watch too. Even if my audience really wants something on like a high-end video camera or something, I'm just not going to create it because I'm not interested. But I want to take the approach as this is something I would want to watch. This could be a little bit of a time capsule for me that I can go back and see too. So you're right, that whole double-edged sword, and as a photographer and videographer, of course, I want everything to be super high quality, but I know that everything we do is not going to be A+ work. I am basically an average driver. I am an average student. I have my moments, and then I just kind of, not everything has to be A+.
Yeah.
And I have to keep telling myself that.
We're not being graded for this. It's not like we're even being paid for it.
No. And with YouTube specifically, I think we get so tied up with the idea of monetizing. And like, okay, I can't create that piece of content because then it won't be monetized. Like shorts right now, those little vertical videos, the big questions everyone has, like, but it's really short, and my watch time and my monetization and blah, 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 blah. Like, okay, but aren't you making Instagram reels and they don't make you any money?
Yeah.
So why are you freaked out about this?
I want 1,000 subscribers for the community tab.
Same. Oh my gosh, same.
I've been dreaming of that community tab since day 0.
Yes. Yeah, because you can have comments on individual videos, but to have that little place at the top, like you could go and just do a post and do a little chit chat in there, like especially you love your conversations, and my whole thing has been about
your story.
Yeah. Or maybe one still image, something like, hey, I'm working on this. Me too. That's been my goal. Like I have this big goal for the end of the year, which is what got me to this place where I was thinking about burnout
Mm,
and overwhelm is because I decided I wanted to try to shoot for 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So in my mind to do that, I thought, you know what? I'm also going to create a video every single day from November 1st to December 31st, which I've done.
wow.
Yes. But 3 of those a week are shorts, 40
Great.
second videos, right? One of them is a live stream. So I've been doing that. But that is for the community tab. I really want that. And also I find like sometimes I don't give myself big enough goals. I think small. And so I'm trying to figure
Safer.
out kind of where I'm at in there. Like, and it's a lot of that is tied into worthiness and authority. How much authority do I really think I have on this subject? And there's all that mind stuff in there. So, I thought I'm going to give myself this challenge and just do it through the end of the year and see what happens.
That's
And so
cool.
here we are, but I'm giving myself permission to give up on it too.
Yeah, I need to check out your shorts. I don't have enough time in the day to check out all the people that I care about. It's like if I had another 16 hours in the day, I'd support all the people's channels.
Oh my gosh, we would really be in YouTube land, wouldn't we?
Yeah. And isn't that just the most amazing thing when we really think about it? However many views we get on a video, that many people with all the content there is out there, all the things they could be doing with their life, they chose to spend that time with us.
Right.
Like that's humbling.
Right. And sometimes when I look at other people's content, I realize they're thinking that too. So same thing, I want to go support people, but it is pretty incredible with the billions of people in the world. How did this person find my tiny grain of sand
Mm,
that I worked so hard on, that I held on to so tightly, right? Sometimes, so I got to think about that too.
yeah.
How important is your message? I think is part of it. Like, I want to be able to help people and affect people and put some stuff out there, and doesn't have to be perfect in that sense either, or else it'll never get done.
And the message should be more important than the goal. I get so tired of hearing
True.
creators talk about their goals. It's like, make your goal to express yourself and be somebody worth watching than just 1,000 subs by this day that people get stuck.
Yeah.
But I think it's also because so many people are stuck in a capitalistic machine where literally every cent helps their family put food on the table.
True.
And they feel this burden. Like I remember when I was a traveling missionary and we had to set up our schedule, and we had to get so many performances every week so that we could have gas money to get to the next place.
Oh.
And we had to arrange where we were going to stay, and it was a lot of pressure on us. And just feeling the burden of that pressure, like sometimes I realize I'm very, very blessed that I live in Sweden. There's a lot of support that we get. Like there's government money for when you have kids. You have so many days that you're allowed to be home with them and be paid for that. It's like
Yeah.
unemployment, but for having kids, and you get like hundreds of days.
Wow.
Yeah, like
Wow.
the maternity system and paternity, dads get time too. Dads get hundreds of days to be home with their kids too. And
Wow.
we're so lucky, blessed, whatever you want to call it, that we don't have to worry about money and food and things. Like we don't have a lot, but we have enough.
And I have to say, I'm so business minded. I do think about business a
Right.
lot, but for me, like on YouTube, it's one branch of my business.
Mm.
So I have all these other things that I do as well. So I think that's part of why I can let go of things a little bit more too. My plan is not to be a YouTuber or have that be like a standalone business.
Mm.
YouTube supports the business I already have.
Right.
So I think that's a big mind shift for me too. I'm in some beginner YouTuber groups, and they're so almost desperate and frantic, and they're like, okay, I followed the system. I put out 4 videos. How come I'm not viral? I'm like, oh gosh, calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
You know,
people, you're like, oh,
you got a long road ahead of you. I know. You got a long road.
Yeah.
Buckle up.
I uploaded 4 videos over the past 4 months. I should give up.
Yes, and I title them exactly like this big YouTuber. And so why aren't I big? Yeah. So I think, diversifying and having other interests and doing other things really helps with that burnout too, because I can walk away.
Mhm.
I can step away if I want. I can play with my content.
Yeah.
And we're in such different, I guess, niches. I don't know. We have a very different type of content you and I put
Mhm.
out. And so when I first started on YouTube, part of what I knew would be the struggle was that I was at the time the only pet-based photographer, although there's a lot of photography channels. And I had to really be honest with myself, like, why is that? Is that just because pet photographers never think to go to YouTube? you know? And I'm in some Facebook groups and they're like, oh, I didn't think to do that. And so I knew it would be a slow growth. So when I went
Mhm.
into YouTube, I kind of knew that, I'm not going to have a viral video on how to, light a dog, probably. That's fine. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to just plod along and put out what I want to. Yeah. And then your audience is just kind of like sharing your life.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like my audience is kindred spirits.
yeah.
It's maybe see if what you think. People who maybe didn't were told that they were too much.
Oh,
Who it's like a safe place. Like you can be yourself. You can just we can think through difficult things and silly things together and just be positive. Like I've seen so many really terrible comment sections, so much negativity. There's no negativity in my comment sections.
awesome.
It's just really kind, big-hearted, generous people. It's like I like to say that I want to collect the best people in the world and make a community of them.
I have to say that's so inspiring to watch your channel because I'm on the very other end of that spectrum. Like I'm never enough. I was never too much. I completely shy, like cripplingly shy kid. Always thinking small, wanting to hide in the corner. I hate Halloween and dressing up. I don't want to stand out. So to watch you like, hey, cool, she's wearing some kind of costume today. Or, yes, please show us. Yes. Oh my gosh. Bugs Bunny, my favorite. I love it. And that is just so inspiring to me because you're unapologetic about it. And one of the things that really caught me, I'm just going to go off on like a fangirl moment for you. One thing that I really appreciated was when you did your looking back at your David Hoffman interview, and there was you in the corner watching your video. You did not apologize for any of your behavior or reactions or emotions in that video. You just watched it. And I can't tell you, that was actually inspiring because how many people have, I mean, I've watched it that you look back on what you did before and you kind of cringe like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have acted like that. I shouldn't have posted that. And you didn't. You just watched it. Yep, that's what I did. And it was like so accepting. And that was inspiring.
Wow, thank you so
Yeah.
much for sharing that. That's really
Yeah.
cool to hear. I think there's always a pressure that once you present yourself a certain way and you present yourself again that way and again, people are like, "Oh, that's who you are." So
Mhm.
it's like, yeah, I'm not always the person. Like I was in a very low key mood that day. And I would just let it be.
Yeah, I don't know. I really like that. I can go to your audience and your followers and you and see someone who's living so big and just I'm going to do this today and it's okay.
I really loved that video of yours that I watched where you showed how you felt about
Mm.
how hard it was with not being able to see the people you were used to seeing and just life being so different. Have you done any kind of follow-up kind of videos like that? Kind of vlogging the emotional journey? Because I'm a sucker for emotions.
I know. Not really. What I've done is my story time videos where I tell a little bit of a story from my past,
Oh,
that's led to me to this point in my life. And so that's a limited series I've been doing.
I gotta check that out. I love listening to stories.
Yeah. And so I've been doing those once a week. They come out on the weekend. So it's just kind of sit back, have some tea, listen to my crazy stories. That's probably the closest. I have a hard time because it's such a technical, like I like to talk about photography so much. So how do you work that in there?
Mm.
I feel like I work my quirk in there more than emotions.
Mm.
So yeah, I do have some emotional moments, but I think more of my personality is the quirky side.
Mm.
Maybe not always like, wow, happy, like, because I've got myself into trouble in the past of always wanting to be happy. We talked about that last time.
Mm.
And so I think just showing, like, I don't have to be the teacher in front of the classroom. This
Yeah.
is how we're going to light this puppy today. I'm going to be like, hey, guess what? I'm scarfing a burrito and my coffee. That's my favorite,
Yeah. Just
or
be
I'm wearing kitty cat socks every day.
unapologetically yourself.
Yeah. And, I have to say too, I think it just comes naturally to you to be unapologetically yourself and to know, maybe I'm assuming this, Katie, that you know who you are. Because when people say just be authentic and just be yourself, and I've had huge chunks of my life, I'm like, well, that'd be great if I knew who that was.
Mm.
Right. And so when people are like, just be yourself, I'm like, I don't know who that is today or who I'm supposed to be. I'm a very much a rule follower person. Yeah. And so working that into my videos, I think is good. And I've been trying to think of ways I can work that in there, and make it more like I'm a real person.
Mm.
And because that's a problem on YouTube. People are just sitting behind their keyboards like, you suck. Like you and I don't have that in our comment section so much, but there's so much in social media that's like that.
Successful people get hate. That's just how it goes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that's something that's been so valuable about Eric Wen's channel, that
Yes.
it wouldn't mean as much coming from me to say you who you are is a superpower, but he is a quiet, shy, introverted person who's discovering at the same time that being really yourself can connect you with your people. And
Hmm.
it's just so hard to get in front of our people
Yeah.
to show our inner world and make it packageable in a way that YouTube will deliver it to anyone.
I think part of that too is like our levels of learning things sometimes, because we like say I want to learn a new skill and I step into YouTube, I'm like, okay, I want to learn how to do this whole thing. And so we want the how-tos, we want the techie stuff, we want the checklists, we want to learn from the experts. And then there gets to a point where, okay, we're saturated with that in our brain. Like, okay, you have to come to a point where you say, I know this now and I can apply it. And so then I think you start to really appreciate who else they are.
Mm-hmm.
Peter McKinnon's really good at that. You know that he likes knives and coffee and, all these things that don't have anything to do with photography, and there are certain people that can really pull that in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's like a point where we want to get deeper. And I have this whole thing where I say consume versus create. And so much of YouTube could just be consume, consume, consume. But if my intent is to learn something, to apply it, at some point I need to create. And that can be a hang up point for some people. So they keep themselves stuck in that consume, consume. Like, I want to know all the how-tos, exactly how to title my video with TubeBuddy, but they never apply it because they
Mm-hmm.
think they have to be perfect. Like this person who's been doing it for 10 years. I think there's this whole thing that happens.
Totally. And I remember you talking before about saying, like, why would anybody want to, not maybe not that strong, but you were like, I'm not a hip 30 something guy on a one wheel. Like,
Yes.
that there's other ladies that with grown children with their careers that would want to connect with you, most assuredly.
Yeah, and I am getting some of those connections.
Yeah.
And I remember right at the very beginning of my YouTube journey, I did a video about that. Like thinking, oh my gosh, who am I to think that I could have a photography channel? I don't have skinny jeans and a one wheel and long hair and a man bun, whatever it is, like that stereotype we think of as photographers on YouTube. Um, so who am I for? And then I realized, I don't know if you watched that video back in the day, like that's not really something to be scared of. I'm not doing extreme things. I'm just teaching pet photography. It's fine. Go ahead and try it, Yeah. So I got over that.
Anxiety and fear just speaks to us too much. And it's like the only way to get past it is through it. Like straight through, just like while the voices are telling you, who are you? And blah, blah, blah. You just keep creating. But in these winter months, it's a little different. We have to have a little extra special grace with ourselves.
That's a good word. Yeah. I like that. And I think too, like for me, when you say get through it, to me, I almost push through it too much. And so then I get more fog.
Makes things worse.
Yes. And so what I try to do is something my counselor told me years ago. If I'm feeling all that, go outside. Even if it's just my 20-minute walk with my dog or on the porch when it's raining, whatever, go outside. And I've heard other people say that too, like change your environment, even if just for a minute.
Right.
And because that can replenish me.
How are you familiar? I'm sure you're familiar with the phrase toxic positivity.
Yes.
It's like too much of that, just keep pushing, can be really, really dangerous.
Well, in the hustle culture is huge right now. And in the US.
You think you need to sleep? You think you need to build relationships with people?
What? I know. And that's
40-hour weeks and then do your side hustle when you get home until 1 a.m.
I know. I just can't. Like, I'm almost 50. No, that's not happening. I can't. I know that I'm not going to do that.
I'm 34. I can't.
Right. Yeah. and like, again, you only have this many hours in a day. And one of my kids used to tell me, they used to be like, Mom, you can't give from an empty cup. Like a lot of people know that. Right. And so we give and give and give. You give to your kids and your husband and your job and whatever else you're doing, volunteering. And then you have this much left for YouTube,
Like, that expression, pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Yeah.
That expression was a thing about how that is a pointless thing because it's impossible.
Ugh.
Did you know that?
No.
And it's like, it's always about being impossible. It's not like, yes, this is a recipe for life.
Yeah.
That's just part of the struggle I'm going through right now, is sorting out the wrong things that I was raised with, these wrong thoughts and judgments and principles that were just like founded on oppression of a whole group of people and of like the, you know what I mean? There's like
for sure.
There's so much like pitting against the poor, like it's their fault for being poor, like
yeah. Oh, I know. There's so much to unlearn.
Really, when you're raised in a very conservative evangelical bubble, and then you like see, whoa, there's a lot more.
Yeah. Well, and so for me too, I grew up extremely poor. And so, my mom had this phrase, I can't finance a Hershey bar, and so that's carried through my life, thinking, okay, I'll never be enough. I'll never be able to do anything. And when I bought my first house, like, how did that happen? But Katie, I can tell you, I think that pull yourself up from the bootstraps. I agree. That's total BS too, because people are getting so much help behind the scenes they're not telling you about. I think there's people who they're like, yep, I was ground up all by myself. From the ground up, I built myself. No, you didn't. I bet you didn't. There was something behind you supporting you. And when I try to do it on my own,
bought me that condo and I lived there rent free for 10 years.
Yeah. Or whatever it is, like I have a trust fund account or whatever it is, or, a government subsidy, like farmers in the US, they have subsidies. They never tell you that.
Hmm.
They're like, we're out there like plowing the fields like all the generations. Like, okay, but there's also something else happening in the background. So I try to remember that. And especially number one, when I'm trying to do something by myself, um, that it's hard.
Yeah.
Like I should ask for help. And number two, the people who look like they did it themselves didn't,
They had
either
a team.
because
They had a whole team.
they had a team, and either you don't know that part of their story or they don't tell it. You know, the overnight successes that really have really worked hard for 10 years,
Yeah.
those kind of stories, or the overnight successes where it really wasn't. They had a lot of support. So when I'm reconciling that in my own brain, like I haven't gotten as far as I wanted to be, or, you know, am I worth it? I have to think about other people's stories too and put myself in perspective. Does that make any sense?
Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
So good to talk to you. It's like so
Yeah.
enriching. You have so much wisdom. I wish I would just love to just talk to you a lot. Like
Okay.
pick that brain of yours.
Oh my gosh. And we have such different approaches to life. It's fun. It's refreshing.
It's so valuable.
Thanks. Yeah. I love talking to you. What's awesome too is that I've seen you so much on YouTube doing these conversations. I feel like we have had a talk before.
Yeah. It's
Have
so
we
funny how
before?
that happens.
This is like our first time Zooming, right?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Yeah.
Especially we need when it comes to creative bumps and discouragement and overwhelms, we need to say what's more important than creating right now is reaching out and talking to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, you're so right. And you know, I thought of that last week when I was feeling really overwhelmed and I didn't reach out to someone. And I knew I wasn't doing it. Yeah.
Because that voice in our head's like, everyone's busy. You're gonna bother them. And it's not
Yeah.
like if it's a bad time, then somebody should just say it's not a good time, but let's set a time.
Yeah.
Or just set aside the thing they're working on and just make time. Like,
well, and I think there's something to reaching out to the right people.
yeah, that's true.
So don't reach out to someone who only wants to talk about surface things if that's not what you want to talk about, or that's
so
a Debbie
true.
Downer all the time, or
Yeah.
yeah.
Someone who makes you feel like you're in a better place when you're done talking.
That's so true. I had a best friend in my high school years, and in our 20s, we fell apart. I was like, I feel awful every time we get together or talk. We can't be friends anymore. Yeah. So it's been, I can't believe I know you all the way over in Sweden from the internets.
I love it. I love it so much.
Me too. Hi.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Time to go get the girls.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, this has been awesome.
Yes. Hugs.
So good to see you. Thank you.